Hey there, bookworms and dinosaur enthusiasts. Today we're diving into a book that's not only a cornerstone of sci-fi thrillers, but also the foundation of a billion-dollar franchise. Of course, I'm talking about Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Now I know what you're thinking. Todd, what could possibly be left to say about Jurassic Park? After all, this is a story that's been dissected, adapted, parodied, and endlessly discussed for decades. And yet here I am. If you're new here, welcome to Mysterious Galaxies. If you've been here before, welcome back. At its core, the premise of Jurassic Park might seem straightforward. John Hammond is a billionaire with a penchant for grand ideas, and he uses cutting-edge genetic engineering to resurrect dinosaurs. As is only natural, he also wants to turn his dinosaurs into a one-of-a-kind theme park on the remote Costa Rican island of Isla Nublar. Hammond invites a group of scientists, a lawyer, and his two grandchildren to tour the park and give it their stamp of approval before its grand opening. But, as you might expect, things don't go according to plan. A disgruntled employee sabotages the park systems, the dinosaurs break free, and all hell breaks loose. What follows is a pulse-pounding struggle of survival against some of the most dangerous creatures to ever walk the earth. But Jurassic Park is about so much more than the dinosaurs running amok. Beneath the heart-pounding action lies a layered philosophical story. It's a cautionary tale about humanity's hubris, a relentless pursuit of scientific discovery, and the ethical quandaries that arise when we try to play God. Crichton forces readers to grapple with questions like, just because we can do something, does that mean we should? Crichton also delves into the fragile nature of complex systems. Through Ian Malcolm, the story's philosophical center, we're introduced to chaos theory and the idea that systems, no matter how meticulously planned, are inherently unstable and prone to collapse. The park's failure isn't just a series of unlucky events. It's an inevitable consequence of humans' arrogance and the overconfidence in our ability to control forces far beyond our comprehension. And then there's the dinosaurs themselves. They aren't just the backdrop or the antagonists. They're a manifestation of nature's raw power, and they're indifferent to human ambitions. Crichton doesn't just resurrect these creatures physically. He imbues them with agency and makes them as much a part of the story's philosophical debate as the human characters. The velociraptors and the T-Rex serve as chilling reminders that life, in all of its forms, cannot be contained or controlled. Ultimately, Jurassic Park is a mirror reflecting our own scientific ambitions and a warning about the consequences of overreaching without fully understanding the potential fallout. One of the central themes of Jurassic Park is our dangerous belief that we can control forces far greater than ourselves. Listen, John Hammond's dream of resurrecting dinosaurs is undeniably awe-inspiring, but it's also a textbook example of playing God. Crichton crafts Hammond as a character so enamored with his vision that he ignores the ethical, environmental, and practical consequences of his actions. He builds a theme park filled with creatures humanity has no business resurrecting, believing he can contain them with walls and locks and carefully designed systems. But as Ian Malcolm famously warns, life finds a way. Now, if you've only ever known Hammond as a fun-loving grandpa from the films, you might just be surprised by what you find in the novel. Hammond's hubris extends beyond his scientific ambition. He views the park not as a groundbreaking scientific achievement or a gift to humanity, but as a commercial enterprise. For him, it's a spectacle to entertain and enrich. In doing so, he trivializes the very creatures he has brought back to life. He treats them as commodities rather than living beings. It's his inability to see the dinosaurs as anything other than assets that blinds him to the dangers they represent. And this ultimately leads to the park's collapse. Crichton uses Hammond's character to critique humanity's arrogance in believing we can bend nature to our will. The park's failure symbolizes a larger truth, that nature is not something we can control or dominate. It operates on a scale far beyond human comprehension and is indifferent to our plans and ambitions. By attempting to resurrect and exploit creatures that existed millions of years before humans, Hammond not only disrupts the natural order, but also underestimates the sheer power and unpredictability of the forces he has unleashed. This theme resonates beyond the context of dinosaurs. Crichton is clearly asking broader questions about humanity's relationship with science and nature. When we manipulate ecosystems, alter genetic codes, or exploit resources, Are we truly prepared for the consequences? Hammond's Park is a microcosm of these larger dilemmas, showing how quickly even the most advanced human systems can unravel when confronted with the untamed power of the natural world. And what makes this theme even more impactful is how Crichton contrasts Hammond's arrogance with Malcolm's warnings about chaos theory. Malcolm serves as the voice of reason, repeatedly pointing out that complex systems like Jurassic Park are inherently unstable and prone to failure. His observations highlight the futility of Hammond's attempts to control the uncontrollable, reinforcing the novel's central theme that nature will always have the final say. Ultimately, Jurassic Park is not just about resurrecting dinosaurs. It's about humanity's tendency to overreach, to assume that technological and scientific advancements, they make us invincible. Crichton challenges readers to consider the cost of this arrogance and to question whether we're truly as powerful or as wise as we like to believe. If Jurassic Park is a cautionary tale about man's arrogance, it's also a searing indictment of the ethical blind spots that often accompany scientific progress. The novel asks one of its most unsettling questions. In the race to achieve something extraordinary, how often do we pause to consider whether we should do it at all? InGen's cloning of dinosaurs represents the pinnacle of human innovation, but the process is disturbingly devoid of ethical reflection. The scientists, led by Dr. Henry Wu, approached the challenge of resurrecting extinct species with single-minded focus. Although Wu is concerned about the public's perception of the dinosaurs, InGen scientists seem more concerned with celebrating their technical achievements than the moral implications of their work. Crichton's characters embody different facets of the ethical debate. Hammond sees the park as a marvel of human ingenuity, a gift to humanity, but most importantly, a lucrative business venture. His refusal to acknowledge the potential dangers reveals how ambition and greed can cloud ethical judgment. Dr. Wu, on the other hand, represents the complacency of the scientific mind. He views the dinosaurs as products, genetically engineered that fits the park's needs, and even proposes altering them further to make them easier to control. For Wu, the dinosaurs are not living beings, but carefully crafted artifacts. And this is a mindset that reveals the dehumanizing, or I guess de-animalizing consequences of unchecked scientific detachment. Once again, it's Malcolm who serves as the novel's moral compass, offering scathing critiques of InGen's approach. He argues that science has become a game of competitive achievement, where the only question is whether something can be done, not whether it should be done. Malcolm highlights a fundamental problem with modern science. Discovery is often pursued without consideration for its broader implications. The result is a reckless, short-sighted approach to innovation that prioritizes immediate gains over long-term consequences. The consequences of ignoring ethical considerations are laid bare throughout the novel. The commodification of the dinosaurs, they result in them being thrust into an environment where their needs and instincts are poorly understood. Their containment relies entirely on technological systems that, as Malcolm predicts, inevitably fail. This negligence isn't just a logistical oversight, it's a moral failing. In their rush to create something extraordinary, InGen scientists fail to account for the responsibilities that come with wielding such power. Crichton also explores the ripple effects of scientific responsibility. The resurrection of dinosaurs disrupts not only the park's ecosystem, but also humanity's understanding of its place in the natural order. By reviving species that nature eliminated millions of years ago, InGen undermines the delicate balance of evolution. The dinosaurs' escape from their enclosure symbolizes the broader idea that once a scientific discovery is unleashed, it cannot be contained. Whether it's nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, or artificial intelligence, Crichton's message is clear. Technological progress without ethical foresight is a recipe for disaster. What makes this theme so compelling is its timeless relevance. Even decades after Jurassic Park was written, the questions it remains about scientific ethics remains at the forefront of contemporary debates. From CRISPR gene editing to AI, humanity continues to grapple with the same moral dilemmas. How far is too far? What safeguards are necessary? And most importantly, who gets to decide? Above all else, Jurassic Park is a sharp critique of how capitalism influences and corrupts all progress. Hammond may cloak his ambitions in the language of wonder and discovery, but his true motivations are unmistakably financial. For Hammond and InGen, the dinosaurs are not a miracle of science, but a marketable product, and one they fully intend to exploit for profit. The park itself is less about celebrating the marvels of nature and more about creating a high-end tourist attraction. It's this dynamic that explores how the pursuit of profit can overshadow responsibility, safety, and ethics in scientific endeavors. Hammond's attitude towards the park perfectly encapsulates the dangers of profit-driven science. He repeatedly emphasizes the commercial potential of Jurassic Park, framing it as an entertainment empire rather than a scientific achievement. His obsession with revenue blinds him to the risks inherent in this project, and he prioritizes speed and spectacle over careful planning and safety measures. For Hammond, the dinosaurs are assets, not living beings, and the park's visitors are customers, not people who need to be protected. Even when faced with mounting evidence of the park's instability, Hammond dismisses the concerns of his team, believing that financial success will justify any corner he cuts. The theme of capitalism's corrosive influence is further reinforced through InGen's corporate structure and practices. The company's approach to the park is driven entirely by profitability and shareholder interests. This is evident in their decision to rush the park's development and bypass proper safety measures to meet financial deadlines. Hiring Dennis Nedry, the disgruntled programmer who ultimately sabotages the park, reflects this mindset. Nedry was hired not because he was the best candidate for the job, but because he was affordable, a decision that ultimately proves catastrophic. Crichton also critiques the broader commercialization of science. The idea of a theme park filled with genetically engineered dinosaurs is inherently absurd, but a symbol of humanity's willingness to trivialize even the most profound scientific discoveries. By turning dinosaurs into a commodity, Hammond strips them of their natural majesty and reduces them to mere attractions. They are simply created and contained for human consumption. This commodification of science reflects a larger societal tendency to prioritize short-term financial gain over long-term consequences. The book's portrayal of capitalism isn't entirely one-dimensional, however. Crichton acknowledges the allure of Hammond's vision and the undeniable brilliance of the park's concept. There's an element of wonder in the idea of bringing dinosaurs back to life, and it's easy to see why investors and scientists were drawn to the project. But Crichton tempers this wonder with a harsh dose of reality. When profit becomes the driving force behind scientific progress, the results are often disastrous. One of the most striking examples of capitalism's impact on the park is the way InGen handles failure. Instead of viewing the collapse of Jurassic Park as an opportunity to learn from their mistakes, the company doubles down on its efforts, paving the way for an even greater disaster in the sequel, The Lost World. This reflects a broader critique of how corporations often refuse to take responsibility for their actions, focusing instead on minimizing losses and maximizing profits at any cost. This theme remains incredibly relevant today, whether it's pharmaceutical companies rushing drugs to market, tech giants prioritizing growth over user safety, or environmental destruction caused by profit-driven industries. The questions Crichton raises in Jurassic Park are as pressing now as they were in 1990. How do we balance innovation with responsibility? Can science thrive in a system that prioritizes profit over ethics? And at what point does the commercialization of discovery undermine its value? It's a sobering reminder that science doesn't exist in a vacuum. It operates within a framework of human motivations, and as long as profit remains the ultimate goal, the risks will always outweigh the rewards. Jurassic Park is a fascinating book, and while it's absolutely worth reading, I think the concept ultimately outshines the execution. The premise is undeniably brilliant and fun. Dinosaurs resurrected through genetic engineering, a high-tech theme park gone wrong, and a deep exploration of humanity's flaws. It's a recipe for a captivating story, and Michael Crichton delivers in many ways. But it doesn't all come together perfectly. Let's start with the good. First off, the dinosaurs. If you were a dinosaur-obsessed kid like me, there's nothing quite as exhilarating as Crichton's vivid depictions of these creatures. The T-Rex terrifying roar, the chilling intelligence of the velociraptors, the thunderous stampede of the herbivores, it's all brought to life with stunning clarity. The iconic T-Rex attack is every bit as heart-stopping in the book as you'd expect, and the suspense when the raptors start stalking the characters is pure nightmare fuel. There's also a scene involving a baby in the beginning of the novel that I won't spoil, but man, it's no wonder Spielberg left that out of his adaptation. And guys, I'm not a scientist. I don't know if there's any merit behind what Crichton is writing about, and I don't particularly care either. It's like in Star Wars, when the ships go into hyperdrive to move to the story from point A to point B. With that said, Crichton's knack for blending real-world scientific principles with science fiction is one of the book's strongest points. Chaos theory, genetic engineering, and cloning ethics are woven into the narrative in a way that's both educational and thrilling. You'll find yourself Googling chaos theory or wondering just how close we might be to cloning extinct species. That's where Jurassic Park shines. It makes science accessible, fun, and just a little bit terrifying. But, and here's where my criticism comes in. The execution doesn't always live up to the concept. Let's talk about the characters. First, we have Malcolm, the snarky chaos theorist, and he steals the show with his sharp wit and philosophical musings. He's easily the standout, and every one of his monologues is thought-provoking. Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler are competent and likable, but they feel underdeveloped, especially when compared to their movie counterparts. Tim and Lex, Hammond's grandchildren, they're a mixed bag. Tim is resourceful and endearing, but Lex? She's frustratingly whiny and often feels like a distraction from the tension. While this might be realistic for a kid in a life or death situation, it doesn't make her any less grating to read about. The pacing too can feel uneven. The book starts strong with an intriguing setup that builds suspense as the characters arrive on the island, but the middle section occasionally drags and is bogged down by overly long technical explorations that at times overshadows the characters and plot. But man, I love the relentless action in the latter half. Dinosaurs destroying things and eating people, it was exactly what I was looking for. Then there's the tone. Make no mistake, this is a sci-fi horror novel at its core. Crichton does not hold back when it comes to grisly details. People, they get eaten alive, and he spares no words describing their terror and pain. It's actually way more intense than I was expecting. For horror fans like myself, this is a plus. But for those expecting more of the adventure-leaning tone of the film, the book's darker and more brutal edge might come as a shock. In the end, Jurassic Park is a book that excels in its ideas, but stumbles in its execution. The premise is undeniably genius, the dinosaurs are unforgettable, and the science is interesting enough to keep me engaged. But the uneven pacing, occasionally frustrating characters, and relentless intensity might leave some readers wishing for just a bit more finesse. That said, it's still a landmark novel that has earned its place as a classic in the sci-fi genre. Even with its flaws, it's worth the read, if only to experience the story in its original, raw, and unfiltered form. So why should you read Jurassic Park if you've already seen the movie? Well, the film isn't the definitive version most people think it is. Yes, the visual effects and acting are fantastic, but the book and the movie are two very different creatures. The novel offers a richer and more thought-provoking experience that's well worth your time. First, the book, it's darker and more complex. Crichton covers the ethical dilemmas surrounding cloning and the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition with just almost perfection. This isn't just a story about dinosaurs running amok. It's a cautionary tale about humanity's obsession with progress and the moral gray areas we often ignore in the pursuit of innovation. The questions raised in Jurassic Park aren't just relevant to genetic engineering. They echo through nearly every field of modern science and technology. The novel forces you to confront unsettling truths about how humanity interacts with the natural world and whether we're wise enough to wield the power we've developed. The horror elements are ramped up significantly compared to the film. While the movie leans into the wonder and adventure, the book doesn't shy away from the gruesome reality that people are being hunted and killed by creatures at the top of the food chain. This is survival horror, plain and simple. Finally, Crichton's writing has a certain magic to it. While his characters may not always be the most complex, his ability to create suspense and build tension is second to none. He writes with a cinematic flair that makes the action leap off the page, but he also takes the time to explore ideas and themes in a way that the film doesn't. You get a greater sense of the park as a flawed, over-engineered system and a deeper understanding of the people who created it. The book allows you to immerse yourself in a world of Jurassic Park in a way that the film, for all of its strengths, can't quite replicate. If you love the movie, the book feels like a director's cut. a darker, richer, and more layered director's cut. Jurassic Park is more than a great book, it's a cultural phenomenon. It's a story about the dangers of playing God, the fragility of human systems, and of course, the raw primal power of dinosaurs. If you've only ever experienced Jurassic Park through Spielberg's lens, you owe it to yourself to pick up the book and see where it all started. It's thrilling, it's terrifying, and it's thought-provoking in a way that few novels manage to be. So, what do you think? Have you read Jurassic Park? How does this stack up to the movie for you? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, your family, and even your enemies. Just no velociraptors. I don't want to be killed. And of course, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because every subscriber inches me one step closer to taking over the galaxies. Until next time, take care, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one.